Evening pilots, and welcome to 5 Answers, a video series dedicated to answering 5 questions about anything related to 5th Gen Armored Core. The first question is from Craig over on the Armored Core Gamers Facebook group, and he asks, why did FromSoftware not incorporate flying/hover legs in Armored Core 5 and Verdict Day? So the reason why flying isn't in Armored Core 5 or Verdict Day is that it would basically negate a lot of the mechanics of the game. Remember that 5th Gen is all about tactical cover-based gameplay, and if you're able to fly over the maps, then there's not really a whole lot of point in cover, and this is kind of the reason why a lot of maps in 4th Gen are basically wide open areas with only a few buildings. It just loses its importance when you have that. Now, the reason why hover legs are not in 5 or Verdict Day is that they don't really have a use. Tanks kind of fit their role because there isn't any flying in the game, and the mechanics are designed where being able to hover over the ground isn't incredibly useful. You would either have a platform that would be super fast or not fast enough, and we kind of see that with tanks as well. And you can kind of see it in 4th Gen, because hover legs basically became tank legs because hovering over the ground basically didn't have a use anymore. The next question is from Esteban Romero over on the YouTube channel, who asks, why is there no arena on Gen 5? Is it related to overall series chronology, as AC1 had no arena too? So I believe the reason why there is no arena in Gen 5 is that they were trying to stick to one of the core concepts that they came up with when they first announced the game, which is kind of more dynamic gameplay, where facing the opponents is not as organized as it was in previous games. So instead of fighting them in an arena, you would fight them or encounter them randomly in a mission. Now, these concepts didn't fully play out in the games as they are now, but you can kind of see it in the way order missions are created, where sometimes you will fight one AC, but sometimes you'll fight 2, which helps add some more dynamic element and makes it much more interesting and difficult for the player. I would say there isn't really any relation to it being about AC1. This is probably just a new concept altogether. The Ne'er-Do-Well over on the YouTube comments asks, got any opinions on practical shotguns for the purposes of balancing armor break and having enough range/accuracy to apply that armor break to enemies at a reasonable distance who are just too fast for a full power spec 15 pellet shotgun to catch up with them? So when it comes to shotguns, there is some bad news, and that's that the AM SGA 204, the 14 pellet shotgun, usually a full power spec, is really the only shotgun that can be used for stun, and as well as his 1st Gen counterparts. When you're fighting lighter builds, the key is not to chase them down, it's to make them approach you. So being a heavier build or in a more armored build, you have the AP where it forces a lightweight to have to approach you, and that's where you want to hit them hard. So one example I would say is, see if you can use missiles when they approach you to either make them dodge it or take that damage and possibly that stun, and then hit them with the shotgun. Or try to see if you can catch them in bad situations where they're not ready, or after they've done an aggressive charge toward you and they're out of energy. The main thing is that you're not trying to chase them, because I've played that matchup a hell of a lot of times, and I can tell you right now, it is incredibly hard to hit a lightweight with the shotgun unless you know what you're doing. If you are having trouble hitting them, there are 2 things I would recommend. Either try using missiles alongside them and see if that helps, or use subcomputers so that you get instantaneous lock whenever you need to approach them or whenever they approach you. And if you're still not able to hit them in either of those cases, then you may want to look into thinking about how your AC is built and what parts you need to change in order to achieve that effect. Just Another Pest asks over on the Armored Core Facebook page, why do 95% of teams tear themselves apart with internal drama and strife, and why is it that all of these teams which avoided that fate had no, or at least very minimal presence on ACL? So there's no, I would say, official or real reason why teams do this, other than, I don't know, they're just bored and they're playing a game which causes a lot of frustration, and when you add those 2 together, people just start to butt heads really hard. We see it a lot over the years where you have team leaders who are seemingly okay people, okay players, and as time goes on, they just become really unstable and basically lash out at their team. I don't really think there's an official reason for this other than, as I said before, people are just bored or frustrated, and it just builds up as time goes on. Now, the other part of it is an interesting question, because overall, I would say, based on my experience of having been here since the start of 5th Gen, about 75% of teams, or players rather, have never really visited or been active on a site or forum. So this isn't really just about ACL, it's really all the sites and just in general. The 5th Gen community is very quiet, and I don't know, it just, despite being a game that's about teamwork and about, team play, they don't really go out of their way to contact or talk with other people outside of the game. It's very weird. Even at the start of Armored Core 5, where there was a lot of players, there still wasn't a lot of people who were joining in on the forums. And last question is from Yannick over on the Armored Core Gamers Facebook group. Is there a benefit to keeping your boosters off when dropping in for melee, or can you just toggle it off, on, when you engage the dive, if you know what I'm talking about? So I do know what you're talking about, Yannick, and I did talk to you a little bit about this, but the main reason why you're dropping your boosters as you're coming down on them is that it allows you to build some speed. So if you're using something like a physical blade, it's going to increase the damage. And the second reason for doing that is it makes it easier for you to react to what they're doing when they're going down. Because if your booster's still on, and you see them move, there's nothing you can do about it because the booster's still on and you're not going to be able to go down fast enough. But by cutting the boosters, you can also look downwards and readjust your position to be able to hit your opponent on your way down. Whereas if you turn your boosters on, off, and on, you're going to be moving at different speeds and you're not going to be able to hit them without them either seeing you first or moving out of the way first. And that does it for this 5 answers. If you have any other questions about the answers that I've give, or anything related to 5th Gen, just feel free to let me know down in the comments. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, pilots.